Grace and peace, friends and family. Welcome to another conversation. My name is Joy, and if it's your first time here, I thank you for taking time out of your day to join me. It's my prayer that you will find the information that I share helpful. I pray that it would answer some of the questions as well as give you direction on what path you need to take. To all the returning family members, welcome. I'm so glad that you choose to keep coming back and hear what I have to say. And likewise, I pray that this would be a blessing to you, that it would give you the information that you need so that you can make a wise decision and wise choices so that you can be informed. I think when it comes to narcissists and death and those conversations, we don't have as much information out there that I think we do need. And so I'm going to come back again with one of those videos. If you don't know, and if it's your first time listening to me, well, I am in a very unique position where I am privileged to be able to see people at end of life. I work with people that are at the end of their lives, and I've got to see a lot. And so the information that I share on this topic comes from these experiences. Before we get started on today's video, I just want to take a moment to invite the ladies to join me to When Queens Convene Bible Study. It is a Bible study I host every first Friday of the month. This is going to be the first Friday, April the 7th. We are going to be discussing Leah. You can find her story in Genesis, and I encourage you that if you're a woman of faith and you want to grow in the Word, join us for Bible study. You can sign up at pinggirlteaches.com under the When Queens Convene tab. We meet on Zoom. No, it is not recorded, and we have a fantastic time. It's about growing, it's about our spiritual growth and development as well as a faith community. So let's get into this conversation. Yes, deep breath, right? Like I was saying, it is a difficult topic to talk about, but it does need to be addressed. Narcissistic personality disorder primarily is a spiritual dis-ease, right? And we also know that it is a mental health condition, and it's so much more than these people having an inflated sense of importance or the lack of empathy towards others, but it has a lot to do with the spiritual war. We wrestle not against flesh and blood is what the Bible teaches us. So though we see the person, we see their body, we see what cases their soul and their spirit, we don't see what's taking place on the inside. There are many times, there are many videos, should I say, that describe narcissists as empty shells, but that empty shell has to be filled with something. That empty shell is influenced by something. And this is where we begin to see the spiritual aspect of it. Again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That means that there's things that our eyes cannot see, but our spirit can perceive. And so while we may not be able to diagnose NPD or somebody as having NPD, when we pay attention to the spiritual aspects of it, then we are very well able to discern what we are dealing with. So when it comes to, end of life, these individuals, right, those with narcissistic personality disorder, those that we perceive have NPD, right? The abuse actually heightens. A lot of times it increases, it goes up several notches. Now, I want to say this. I know that there are people that will watch this and that will come in the comments and say, well, the narcissistic person that I knew changed towards the end of their life. To God be all the glory. Listen, me sharing this and talking about this is not that I wish these people to be, to experience eternity in the lake of fire. That's not my goal. I'm sharing information. And I also want us to be aware, when we talk about end of life, I need you to understand that there is no coming back from this. There is no coming back from this. And as much as you may despise what they did to you, you got to understand that it is the devil, it is Satan that is at work. I would rather see souls saved for the kingdom of heaven than the enemy gain victory over another soul. Again, eternity is forever. Some of us have children with these type of people, and no, it doesn't make me feel good to think that that could be his potential, eternity. But also, I want us also to check ourselves, because it's easy to look and say, well, you know what, look at them. No, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. This is for information purposes. So while somebody may have been able to be saved, they believed in the Lord Jesus Christ and their soul was saved, to God be all the glory. I'm here for it. But that's not always the case. And I want you to remember, as you get in the comments and share, to be sensitive, or to be sensitive and be empathetic towards people that want to see their loved ones saved and know that, potentially it may not happen. Listen, I want all of us to be saved. Is it a reality that we will all be saved? No. So we'll let God be God, and we'll just be wise and govern ourselves accordingly. One thing narcissists do tend to do as they near the end of life is refuse medical treatment. This is so frustrating, because families look at them and say, well, you know what? If you will take this medication, you have the potential to live. And in some instances, they do. But they decline, they refuse medical treatment, even if it is essential to their health. And what you got to realize about this is they do it to assert control over those around them as a form of punishment. It is incredibly stressful and traumatic for those that are caring for them. They go through all the pain, right? And they experience all of the pain, but to them, they have no problem cutting off their nose to smite their face. They are doing this so that you are left, and I'm saying you, but I'm just talking in general, so that the family is left with horrific images, memories. Because when somebody is in such excruciating pain, the screams that come out of them, this is just from pain, right? I'm not even talking towards the end, because that's another horror show all by itself. But when they start experiencing this unthinkable pain, they won't. But what they feed on, and this is why you got to realize that narcissistic supply is powerful. They feed on your emotions. But let's talk about demons for a moment, because demons don't care about they don't care about your tears. They don't care about they don't care about you as a person. But those emotions, the begging, the pleading, weeping, the horror on your face, what that does is, when you're in such a heightened emotional state, it makes you vulnerable, and it makes you an easier target for the enemy to oppress you. They'll torment you mentally. They'll torment you emotionally, psychologically. And the thing about it is, it can have long-term impacts, or a long-term impact, right? Long-term effects, because it's memories that are ingrained in you. And sadly, for many family members, they carry those throughout the rest of their life. It makes them themselves fearful about aging. It makes them fearful about what the end of their life would be. And what's crazy is that as much as the narcissist is the one who is saying, I don't want any treatment, they will blame the family members for them refusing treatment, on top of everything that they are already inflicting. And so when it comes to them blaming others, they may take having, whatever illness or whatever is leading towards their demise as the opportunity to just blame. You know that they love to blame shift. They know full well that they didn't take care of their health. They were reckless with how they ate. They were reckless in just their mental health. They were reckless with their bodies. But they don't care. If what they'll say is stuff like, if you would have done a better job taking care of me, if you would have been a better daughter, if you would have been a better son, if you were a better wife, if you were a better husband, I wouldn't be here. The devil is a liar. You can take a giraffe to the water pool, but you cannot make it drink. You can take it as many times a day as you want, but not one single time will you be able to force it to drink. Have you ever tried to feed a toddler, and they are so strong-willed. Have you ever tried to feed them something they don't want? They will fight you tooth and nail. They don't want it. It's the same thing with these people. When they want to attack you, when they want to strike, you cannot make them take care of themselves. But a lot of times they know that, I'm doing this to punish you. And I think to some degree, because they are so delusional and they drink the enemy's Kool-Aid, thus believing what the devil is telling them, right? Believing what those demons tell them, that, you know what? you're okay. Because remember, the enemy is the father of lies. So he may make them feel empowered that, you know what, the narcissistic supply that I'm getting is worth what I'm doing, not realizing that death is final. And as they begin to really, as their bodies physically begin to die, as they begin to die, what happens in the dying process, as the body physically begins to start dying, as organs begin to shut down, because a lot of times, it's one organ after another. The body has a way that it shuts down, depending on what is, the cause of death. It's very rare that, a whole bunch, and it's not that it's impossible. There are instances where a body, several organs shut down at the same time, but there is a process, is what I'm trying to get out here. It may be the liver and the kidneys. It may be, the heart. It just depends on how, whatever is going on with a person. But they will always have this thought that, what, I'll beat this. I'll beat this. But when the body begins to shut down, that's when the spirit, the inner man, the ruach of God begins to awaken. The spirit man wakes up, and there is like a veil that is lifted between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. And this is where things get crazy. And I say this is where it gets crazy. It gets real, because what you don't see, what the naked eye does not see, if you don't have the spiritual eye and God is not giving you the ability to see, only they see. And it is horrifying. It is horrifying. And I don't wish this on my worst enemy. I promise you, I am telling you. So as much as you want to see the vengeance of God on these people, it is a frightening thing. And when you think about what the word of God teaches us about, the afterlife, and that, separation from God is essentially what happens in hell. I can't even imagine what that is. David in the Psalms was saying, take not thy spirit from me, cast me not away from your presence. It is a painful reality. And I want to say this, that not a single person on this planet Earth has ever experienced one day away from the presence of God. The Bible tells us that he is everywhere. He is in all things. He is, he never leaves nor forsakes us. He's always there. Even if you are an atheist, even if you worship Buddha, even if you are, a backslidden Christian, right? A backslidden believer. None of us have experienced life separate from God, because when we look around us, his goodness is all around us. And if we call upon his name, we can be saved. If we call upon his name, he can answer us. But in hell, there is no option for that. In fact, that's where you meet his wrath. And so when we are saved as believers, we're not necessarily saved from hell, but we're saved from the wrath of God. Listen, it's an intense thing, okay? So you'll find that they accuse their caregivers of not doing enough to take care of them, not making them comfortable, of being selfish and self-seeking. This is what they are accusing people of, not just their caregivers, but their family members. They'll blame them again for their health issues. You didn't do enough to pull that chocolate cake away from me. You didn't do enough to tell me to stop smoking. It's because of you. You are the stressor in my life, and that's why I made those choices. And then they begin to start acting up on their pain, or demonstrating the pain while they're saying those things. Can you imagine how traumatic that is? And for those of you that have experienced this thing, my heart goes out to you, and you are in my prayers. What happens is family members are left feeling incredibly hurt. And they feel guilty and even blame themselves when there's nothing that they could have done. The narcissist will use their illness to manipulate everybody around them, right? Anybody can get it, right? And we know there's no loyalty when it comes to narcissists. So they'll make crazy demands and guilt people to get what they want. And again, this is where they use that sickness to their benefit. But when you're on your deathbed, like, this ain't the time to be doing all this. So that's why when people ask, well, do you pray with them? They don't want prayer. A lot of them don't. I have never met one that wants prayer. They don't want prayer. They don't even want to talk about God. Some of them want, their favorite jazz music playing. Typically, I play worship music, right? And instrumental worship. I may play, like a YouTube video that has scriptures or, Bible readings. I may read the Bible, do different things, pray. But these type don't want any of that. In fact, they want jazz, they want country music, they want rock. I mean, like, this is end of life. But they will make these crazy demands and make it incredibly difficult for the family members who are around them. It's a time of, people become hyper vigilant and extra sensitive, and not in a negative way, but because they're emotionally drained. And this is, how narcissists, we call them energy vampires, like soul hunters, because they siphon your energy. But this is a last desperate act to do that. And for those of you that believe that a narcissist can truly steal your soul, the devil himself, Satan, him, Lucifer, that fallen angel, he can do no such thing. The Bible tells us that only God can touch your soul. Don't believe me? Go study the word. Satan cannot. All he can do is siphon your virtues. Right? That's all they can do. Siphon your energy. This is not for you to be fearful. This is for you to be empowered so you know what to do. We do not walk in fear. We are not to be fearful. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. Taking care of somebody who is sick and somebody who is in pain and somebody who is high conflict, right? Narcissistic, is difficult on its own. And so when they begin to gaslight you, right? Because they will sure gaslight. Would they be a narcissist without gaslighting? No, they gaslight. All narcissists gaslight. But they use their illness to gaslight everyone around them. They may deny that they're sick and tell you that they feel good. They may deny the severity of their illness, or they can even exaggerate their symptoms to gain, to gain sympathy. Some of them actually want the comfort packet. Now, what the comfort packet is, those hospice medications that are to alleviate pain as they go towards the end. And they'll make a big show about the comfort packet. But the truth about it is, introducing the comfort packet is really like the last steps. And that is really when a person is in the active dying stage. There are ways to know whether a person is in active dying, but these people will ask for the comfort packet in advance when they don't need it. There are medications that will manage pain effectively without that comfort pack, but they know that the family has already been talked to. They already know what this signifies. And so family becomes heightened, and their emotions, should I say, become heightened, and it's stressful. They don't care. They're laying in that hospital bed, and not necessarily in the hospital, but they could be at home, but on the hospital beds that are provided, or their own beds, right? They can be wherever they are, just under the covers, just, with a smirk. It doesn't matter. And what happens when they begin to blame the family members, their caregivers, for what they are going through, the black eyes sure do come out. It's crazy. And, like I said, this is not an easy conversation to have, but I think it is a necessary one. It's confusing for family members who may not know what to believe. 1 minute they're up, 1 minute they're down, and literally it can be 1 minute. It could be a blink of the blink of an eye, and their emotions or their condition changes. But it's all a form of gaslighting. It is all to control a person's perception. It is all just to continue to manipulate somebody or abuse them emotionally. And I think for this, it becomes more spiritual abuse, because we understand that there's a separating of the body, soul, and spirit at death. And so, yes, the body is going to stay in the ground, but what happens to the spirit? It goes back to God. This is why I'm calling it spiritual abuse, because it is at the end of life and the impact that it leaves on the family. And even for some of the caregivers, because I don't think we talk about the caregivers enough. And I'm talking about those that come into the home, the primary caregivers, the hospice workers, the doctors, the nurses, but even the family members that actually work as caregivers to them. They become their caregivers. It is so stressful. It is highly abusive, because these are imprints that are left with a person. For some people, they actually need to be able to, they need to go to therapy after these events. I know when it's with me and it's somebody who is like that, I can't get back up and, get another assignment immediately. I need some time. I need some time to detox, to de-stress, to just get my focus right. And that's crazy, because I have awareness of what is happening, but because it is so, the impact is, ooh, it's astounding. It's astounding. And in true narc form, they lack empathy. They lack empathy, or even when they are dying to everybody around them. But what's crazy is that if there is a scapegoat in the midst, it becomes even worse for the scapegoat, because the narcissist will triangulate with the flying monkeys, the members of their narcissistic harem, right? And I like to call the narcissistic harem the love cult, because they are deceived. But they show extra love and attention and affection and are kind to them, and they go crying to this person, or they'll weep and talk about everything that the scapegoat did, leaving that scapegoat with horrific memories. They can become uninterested in saying goodbye. They will just say, I need you to leave. And you have to recognize that that is a way to issue a final discard. When a person is in that dying, or in the phase of dying, should I say, they go from just the passive phase to the active dying phase. And when they enter into the active dying phase, a lot of times, well, the majority of the time, I've never seen it, that they talk all the way to the end, like what the movies show you. That's not what happens in real life. But when they begin to enter into active dying phase, they can no longer communicate. They are often unconscious or sleeping. They're in, an in-between state. They'll reach for things, or say, or if they are still early in that, they'll see things that you can't see. They'll see, deceased family members, sometimes even pets, or there is sheer terror at what they see. And when when family members are around them, and they're seeing, the various responses and the way they are acting, it becomes even more painful. But what heightens all of that is the abuse that has happened during this phase of life, during the end. And you're confused, like you want to help them, you want to protect yourself, you feel guilty because of everything the narcissist has said up until this point. And then what makes it even worse for, the family, and especially the scapegoats, is that the flying monkeys then begin to amplify the abuse, because a lot of times, before they are able to be silent, they issue orders. When I say silent, when they go into real active dying phase, when they truly need the comfort pack, but then they have said, I don't want it. I want to thug this thing out. And I'm using that word because they're trying to be gangster, because why? It's unbelievable, right? And so I just want to say, I want to end by just saying that narcissistic abuse during the dying process can be incredibly challenging for family members and caregivers. And I think it's important that I speak about this, so that you, family members, children, aunts, uncles, friends, are able to recognize the signs. Because when you see somebody in the hospital bed, you see them in bed and they're looking frail, because sickness has taken a number on them, or a toll on them, right? It can make you think, oh my goodness, this is terrible, and you let your guard down. But what's going to happen is that, there's just more abuse there, and it's a different type of abuse. They become more venomous and bitter. And especially when they realize that, oh, I've been deceived, when they realize that the enemy lied to them and there is nothing they can do. So they get into a phase where they are too angry to pray. They're too angry to, to say sorry or to repent. And what happens, and what I've seen oftentimes, is that it's almost like they really can't. You know, when the Bible talks about a reprobate mind or a seared conscience, and when we take it to the end like this, it's like their mouths just cleaved to the roof of their tongue, should I say. It's like their tongue is cleaving to the roof of their mouth. And even if they wanted to, they can't. I've seen it enough times to know that that is really a thing. And so I want to encourage you that, first recognize the signs. Even though you may let your guard down, protect your heart. Remember, the Bible tells us, guard your heart, for out of it the issues of life flow. Seek support. Seek support and take breaks. You're not alone. And, we are a community of survivors and thrivers. And if you have walked this path, my heart goes out to you, and you are in my prayers. And if you are presently in them, you certainly have my prayers. I want to thank you so much for sharing time, listening to this conversation. Please don't forget to hit the like button, comment, share. And if you have not subscribed, please do go ahead and subscribe. If you find this information helpful, continue to come from behind, fearless one, and pursue your most significant state in Christ. God bless.